So how have we built the climate web? One way to think about the climate web is as a combination of massive climate change filing cabinet on the one hand and advanced curation capabilities on the other. And so this basic curation is how have we built this huge climate knowledge filing cabinet representing 10, 15,000 hours worth of work that you can instantly access. One of the questions that we get all the time about the climate web is, do you have bots running around the internet at night, scraping all sorts of information together and dumping it into the climate web? And the answer to that is no, because that would simply create or recreate the same chaos that is basically out there when you simply start searching for stuff on the internet. So everything you see here, whether the PDFs, the news and opinion stories, the websites, the videos, the graphics, the quotes, the cartoons, all of that has been individually entered into the climate web by us, by a human, by the climatographers. And so that's sort of what I'm describing here is the first level of how do we take all of that stuff, make sense of it, and organize it in a way that is useful to you. So for example, we're constantly looking for good new pieces, news and opinion pieces, LinkedIn threads, Twitter threads, websites, web pages, journal articles in professional journals, new books, new reports about climate change. We're constantly looking for that stuff, and tons of it comes through our own social media feeds. And what we're basically able to do is whenever we see something that looks interesting and that we think is new, we can put it into what's called the brain box, which is what the arrow is pointing to here. And so from our browser, we can simply make a little click. It puts it into this brain box and holds onto it until we want to put all those things into the climate web. And so when we put all this stuff into the climate web, initially, it's pretty messy. Everything has its own thought icon or favicon that comes in from the internet. You don't really know what's what. You don't really have any idea of what's going on here. Here are hundreds of things under this added tag that we've collected in the last couple of months. And now we put them into the climate web, and now we'll start processing them so that they make sense. So for example, when it comes to sources, which books, reports, PowerPoints, we have a naming convention that involves the year that it was published, the author, and the name. We also apply a thought icon, in this case, that little PDF icon. So you'll always know what a source is because it has that little icon. And here I'm just showing you, for example, 2022, 2023 sources added to the climate web, just to show you how we go from just adding the stuff into the brain to start with, and then we start to categorize it in its own right. For example, all of those sources are in the climate web, and in the desktop version of the software, I can simply hover over the thought and it'll open up in the notes field. In the web client version, for technical reasons, that doesn't work. What you'll see is a link instead, and you click on the link and then it'll open up as a browser tab. So this is one area where there is a difference between the desktop and the web client, but it just is an additional click. But you can basically access all of these sources from within the climate web. And then these are called sources topical headings. There are more than 500 of them. So we've organized the 25,000 sources in the climate web by 500 or more topical headings. And you would normally never see this. This happens to be what's called a type, but I just wanted to give you a sense of the range here. So business greenwashing on the left, business opposition, carbon pricing, carbon capture and storage risks, carbon capture and storage futures, circular economy, civil disobedience. you start to get a sense of the diversity of topical headings for sources. And so here, for example, I've gone to the carbon capture and storage collection. And so you can see that in the active thought up there. You can see topical headings on the left-hand side, the more granular topics within carbon capture and storage that have libraries of their own. And then you can see the actual sources on the screen. You'll see the little locks on there. And what that means is that those thoughts are private. And so what we've done is, for open access, we've constrained it to 5 years of content, in part so people aren't quite as overwhelmed by the amount of information. And to get the full 10+ years of content, that's one of the premium access offerings that I'll be talking about in a future video. But that's what the little lock means, which means that if you're simply accessing the climate web, you won't actually see those thoughts at all without being premium access. But there's still tons of stuff in the climate web on an open access basis. So for news, for example, we go through all the news stories and blogs, and we have a naming convention, which is year and month, and there's a particular color, particular thought icon. So you'll always know that you're looking at a news story or an opinion piece. And following the same logic as for the sources, with the desktop, I can simply hover over a news story and it will instantly open up in the notes field. In the web client, what you'll do is click on the thought and then open up the link in a new browser tab. But basically, the way we've organized it, you have access to 35,000 news stories pretty much instantly from within the climate web. And those news stories are organized by more than 500 topical headings again. So here you can see N-carbon offset, N-carbon pricing, N-carbon capture and storage critiques, N-circular economy, children's trust, climate finance, climate history, climate humor. So these are just a subset of the topical headings that we use to organize the 35,000 plus news and opinion pieces that are in the climate web. Now I've showed you just the sources, and you can see top left there, sources headings, top of the middle, individual sources. I've showed you just a few of the ways that information is organized. There are actually a bunch more that you can see here in this legend that tells you what you're looking at, whether networking headings there at the bottom left, whether search collections, whether individual quotes, whether individual videos. You'll quickly learn to recognize from the color, the text color, and from the thought icon, what you're seeing on your screen. And to give you just a couple more examples of sort of basic curation is that for a lot of experts, you can find basically their body of work, not necessarily everything they've ever published, but you can find a large collection of their body of work under their name and click through and explore those documents. And among the many other ways that you'll see information organized, quotes collections, cartoon collections, etc., we have thousands of videos organized in the climate web under a couple of hundred topical headings. In this case, for video, carbon trading, and offsets. And then you can basically watch the video right there within the climate web, or you can open it up in YouTube. And we also have Vimeo videos, but again, a very valuable resource because we've spent a lot of time organizing these thousands of videos to make it easy for you to find and access. So that wraps up this short look at how we've built, how we've structured, how we've curated climate knowledge into a very large filing cabinet of materials and information. And next, I'm going to look at where we go from there in terms of delivering more advanced knowledge curation and insight.